Hello, everyone. Welcome to William and the Magic Box. Today on our show, we are going to have Michael. Michael is from Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania in the USA. So let's see what Michael has to say. Enjoy the interview.
Hi, William.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. It's a gorgeous day in the Berg. I can't complain.
Oh my God. So where are you from?
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I feel like now I have to answer Pittsburgh because that's where I live and that's where I pay taxes. So yeah, I live in Pittsburgh now.
And why the change from New York City to Pittsburgh?
Um, my partner's from Pittsburgh, and I feel like every Pittsburgher has this weird beacon that brings them home at all costs. I fought tooth and nail not to move here for like 2 years, and then eventually we did. And it's been great ever since. I thought it was going to be social suicide leaving New York City, but I'm still thriving.
And all your family are back in New York City?
My family's all over. I have some family in New York, but they're also in Florida and Maryland and Boston. So New York is just home, but it's not sort of the base of where all my family is.
I see. And tell me, what do you do for work, for living, Michael?
What do I do for work? In my 9 to 5, I work for an HIV clinic here in Pittsburgh. I run an internal housing assistance program that I developed 4 years ago to help people transition out of homelessness and unstable housing into stable housing and secure long-term housing with the idea of it's more than just surviving that we want to do in this day and age. It's about thriving.
That's amazing. Oh, wow. What a great idea to be supporting people with HIV. That's amazing.
Yeah, I also do the insurances for the clinic and also spearhead the outreach events that we do, which have been really fun because it's based on like animal care, which is a new little yeah, new situation we've been involved in.
Amazing. Of course, Michael, checking your profile, and of course, I could see that you are Mr. Pittsburgh Leather Fetish 2024.
Yes,
Wow.
still my year. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. I am Mr. Pittsburgh Leather. I do now have a sash child as of 3 weeks ago. I don't know. It feels weird to have
Where's
children.
your sash? Where's your sash? Don't wear your sash for the
I
interview.
had to give my sash to Mr. Pittsburgh Leather 2025.
Oh, I
We had our
see.
competition 3 weeks ago, and we have now ushered in a new generation of leather and kinksters in our town, and I had to give up that sash.
I see. So tell me a little bit about the journey since you became Mr. Fetish, Leather Fetish 2024 in Pittsburgh. So tell me a little bit the journey.
Yeah, oh, sure, why not? I mean, I went after this because I wanted it. I think, one of the things that I struggled with working in so many professional settings, is that I often feel very sort of limited to how I can express myself, and sort of going after a leather and fetish title sort of would give me the agency to share these other sides of myself, a little bit kinkier, a little bit more soft, that aren't always like societally acceptable to show in professional engagements and settings. And so basically it was an excuse to like share all these other sides of myself that I really wanted to, that have often been criticized by those around me. So it was, yeah, that's kind of how it started. One of the things that I wanted to do this year was to sort of merge my lives together. I've been working in the field of like HIV prevention for like maybe 10 years or so. And now that I'm getting older and grayer, sort of the leather life sort of is something that I find very attractive. And sort of I realized in our town there wasn't a lot of conversations or synergies between public health sort of conversations and kink and sex, which to me is kind of crazy, because they kind of go hand in hand. But I didn't really see any on the ground at events. And so for myself, like once I became Mr. Pittsburgh Leather, I really wanted to be a part of AIDS Free Pittsburgh's current campaign with my leather sash on, because to me it would sort of draw attention back to the need to have these conversations around sexual health and wellness within the realm of kink and pleasure. And so that was sort of something I was chasing after. that was really excited to do. Yeah, and then outside of that, I think one of the things that I really wanted to work on was sort of like bringing worlds together. Pittsburgh is a city of a lot of bridges, which means that people should be able to come together more often. Yeah, so I did an event. It was like a mini kink dom ball. Historically, within the LGBT community, there is a ballroom community of Black and Brown people who will focus on the elements of ballroom and that sort of subspace. But then within the kink and leather world, it's a different subset of folks broken down into like our pup community, our beard community, and like, everybody else. And so for me, realizing that we have such small subsectors of communities in such a small town, also, I was like, let's come together, let's bring the worlds together. Let's bring culture to people who aren't typically exposed to it. And as someone who sort of straddles all of these identities, I realized that I had the capacity to do it. So it was really cute. It was like a mini ball that had about like 8 categories. Traditional like voguing, femme queen and butch queen categories, open to all. But then there were also a lot of categories that we tossed in there that were sort of a bit diverse. Like there was a drag category, there was a best in pet category because we have a very massive and dynamic pet community here in Pittsburgh. I also organized a leather vendor mart at the same time as the ball, so that the ballroom community could be exposed to the leather and kink culture. There was a guy doing set up also doing boot blacking, so it was about like bringing all the traditional things that are typically in leather and kink scenes into the ballroom community. And so that was lovely because how often are you going to be around a vendor who can sell you like a flogger? So that was something that was really important to me that I focused on this year. And, it was really lovely to see these worlds coming together under one, I was going to say roof, but it was in an alley, so there was no roof, partial roof. Yeah, it was lovely. So those are some of the things that I started focusing on like this year, but also just being out and about more often and socializing so that people can see that this too is obtainable. Anyone can be a Leatherman. It's a self-identity, and sort of making all of the myths around it sort of dispelled by just talking to people and bumping into people at the bar and chatting them up. So that's been a lot of my my leather walk this year. Yeah, and also like just being able to join in on like community events. I'm very community oriented in all that I do. I also work for a foundation outside of my 9 to 5 as a board member. So I'm always like interested in what local organizations are doing in their work. And so, yeah, fundraisers are sort of built into what I do because I work for a foundation. But outside of that, a lot of bars throw little sort of fundraising events at nights, oftentimes centered around a drag performer or some like dancing performers. That was something I started doing this year also. I've never really done that before, nor did I want to pigeonhole myself into being like a bar dancer or go-go boy or any of the sorts. But it was it was a nice sort of challenge to myself to come up with like multiple numbers to do in a bar and think about how it can be entertaining and also incorporate like leather and kink and demonstrations within my performances, because that was something that was important to me as Mr. Pittsburgh Leather, is to always have this element of like kink and like demonstrations and leather in performances, because it's about exposure to culture.
Wow, I could see that. Yeah, sorry, I
No,
could see that. I could see that you're very busy during the year that you hold the sash, and I think it's very inspirational for you to be able to, in the end of the day, you're connecting people and open people's mind. I think that's amazing to do this job. Great. All right. Okay, Michael. So during the interview, I'm going to explore a little bit more about your life and also about your point of views. Okay.
Go for it.
Are you ready to go on a beautiful journey through your memories in life and share your point of views?
Oh, I'm always ready for a journey.
Amazing. Welcome to William in the Magic Box. So I have him, my best friend. Full of random fun questions, okay? I'm just going to play a song now, just first to relax before the first question, okay?
Okay.
Amazing. Let's do it. Yes, you can always join me dancing, okay? During the interview, if it comes up a question that you don't want to talk about, you don't want to answer, always can change, okay?
Okay.
First question for you is, when was the last time that you laughed so hard that you couldn't stop laughing?
I don't think. It's usually around when I embarrass myself, and like I have a habit of like misplacing things in my house and then going on like, I don't know, like a rampage, like right before I'm walking out the door to find my keys and my wallet usually. And they were in some place very, very obvious, and I didn't notice them. And I went on like a 25-minute like rampage and was like late for work. And then once I finally found them, like it was kind of embarrassing. I just laughed my ass off at myself. So most of my like laughing till I die is at myself once I realize I've done something silly.
When you think about yourself, when you analyze yourself, what's the biggest joy of being Michael? What do you like the most about being you?
That I can find greatness in other people. Like I don't know, since I've been a child, I've always sort of been able to look at individuals from a perspective of like everyone has something amazing that they bring to this world. And that is how I engage other people in every walk that I do. And it makes existing exciting because every time I meet someone, I'm just really enthralled and intrigued by what it is that makes them them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Next question, let's do it. Hey, Michael, next question for you is,
Okay.
do you have a unique ability that you think no one has or you never met before?
I don't think it's a unique ability, but I do feel like I have this sort of like internal spirit of discernment, for lack of a better description. Like I typically, when I meet someone, I get like a feeling in my stomach or my gut about their personhood and like what they're about. And in general, I always trust those gut feelings about a person. I know I'm not the only person with this special like ability, but it does lead me to like amazing friendships and oftentimes a lot of great collaborations with people who I feel are very passionate about what they do.
And which person in your life you feel more connected with, more close to?
Any person?
Any person.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people I could say that to, but I guess at the moment, I would kind of say I am getting more connected to my mom. I think like my mother and I are very similar humans, in that we like have these neuroses that have us do certain things. We're always in a thrift store and we're always collecting more plants. And I think like in my 20s, I separated or didn't communicate a lot with my family because they're also like religious Christian zealots, and I am clearly of the rainbow persuasion. And yeah, so I actually didn't talk to my parents a lot for many years. And then now they're like much older, and I'm also older by default, and like my views and sort of the way I feel about things have changed. And so I just found myself more often than I did before checking in on her and like sending her small like updates and things like that. And we still do share our love for like thrift and plants. And we'll randomly like communicate something if she's in a thrift store and sees something crazy. She'll be like, "Oh my God, I just saw this." Or if I buy a new plant that I think she's gonna love, I'm like, "Look what I got." So yeah, my mom, she's fun.
Okay, so let's say that she's watching this interview right now and you have a moment, an opportunity to send her a message. What would you say?
I would say keep flying. She has this habit of she's a snowbird at the moment, and so she's always like checking into a flight to go somewhere else every time I check on her. I would say keep it up. You know, I feel like in America we live in a crazy capitalist society where a lot of people have had to work for decades, and so once you get to that period where you're still alive and you're retired, you deserve everything.
Beautiful. Next question. Let's do it. Michael, tell me what do you like the most about your job? Yeah, helping people with HIV. What's the biggest joy of it, and what do you find most challenging about it?
Yeah. I think the biggest joy of it for me is as someone also living with HIV, a lot of the patients that I meet have never met someone else. And so if like, especially for newly diagnosed people, if I feel or sense that this is something that would help them, I definitely like sharing my status with them. And like I have found that it makes a huge difference in the engagement. A lot of my colleagues don't share that lived experience. And so it's really hard for people patients specifically to connect when they're going through something incredibly traumatizing. And when you say like, oh, I understand what it's like, they kind of believe me when I say it. And so like that is the biggest joy for me, when I can like share my lived experience and it helps someone else deal with their own diagnosis or their current like situation at the moment. What was the second part of that question?
The most challenging part about it, your job.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, so I feel like the most challenging part is the fact that I work in the world of housing, and the cost of housing is just astronomical, like, and a lot of people are low income and their incomes are very fixed. Even if they're not fixed, they're under income because of education or whatever the case may be. And so, like, I struggle, like, housing. Well, I don't actually struggle housing people because I always find housing, but I struggle with this idea that people are supposed to survive and thrive when rent is like $1,000 and then there's utilities on top of that. When the average like social security disability check is like in the low 1,000s, like a lot of people are not able to survive and thrive after paying rent in this country. And so like I see that happening in the population base that I work with. I think everyone is trying their best based on their circumstances and the factors that have led them to where we are in this current context. But the cost of rent keeps going up. And it's very hard for a lot of people to keep up with that. And it's why people become housingly unstable or homeless.
I see.
Some other
All right.
reason. Yeah.
Next question is, what is your morning ritual?
When I wake up, put on my makeup. Okay, so my morning ritual is my cat typically wakes me up around like 6:15. She has a habit of like stepping all over my face and my stomach to wake me up. It's really rude, but I get it. She's hungry. So the first thing I do is I make a huge pot of coffee. I don't run unless there's coffee flowing through my veins. Maybe I drink too much caffeine, but like whatever. If you have a lot to do, you got to do what you got to do. So I make a huge pot of coffee. My partner is also huge into coffee. So if he wakes up and there isn't coffee like already brewing, like something's off in the house. Yeah, then I feed the cats, then I make my lunch, and then I pull out my work phone around 7:30 and I start responding to emails and phone calls before I even get into the office because like I want to be as efficient as I possibly can be. And then I drive on the highway into the office, chugging my coffee, listening to WESA in the morning for local news. So yeah, that's my morning routine. I'm a creature of regiment. As long as I have a huge cup of coffee in my hand, I'm good to go.
I love the way you explain your day. Very explained, detail by detail. I love it. Next question. Let's do it. Next question is, what has been the lowest point of your life?
I think the lowest point in my life was probably years ago during sort of like, I don't know how to fully explain what I was going through at that time, but it might have been an early life crisis. And I fell into some scam and I had to like deal with the fact of loss of money. But I also had to like truthfully communicate to other people that this scam happened. So like that was probably the lowest point in my life. I don't know, that was like 8 years ago. Yeah, because I think that like I don't know, I was really gullible about something and lost some money. And now I've learned from my lessons and, have a lot of, what's the term I'm looking for? Yeah.
Now you have a lot of money. Joking.
No, I realize how prevalent scams are in society in this world. Because it's happened to me and that I realize that it's constantly happening to other people. And like the older population is constantly like being a target for scams in life. There's always somebody out to get you somewhere, sometime.
And the opposite, what has been the happiest point so far?
Jeez, the happiest. I don't know. Um, Buying a house, I guess. That was kind of pretty happy. I mean, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in like, you know, I didn't actually think I would ever own a house. I didn't actually think I would leave New York City either. Just because the cost of like a full house in New York City is like millions. It's crazy, right? So I never thought I would own a house. And then moving to Western Pennsylvania, where the housing market is more affordable, and having a partner, which is something I also like a long-term partner, which is also something I didn't ever plan on having. So there's so many things that like led to this. And then once I like signed for this home, I was like, oh, I own a home. I'm a homeowner. This is so unexpected. This is so lovely. It's exciting, now I can like peek out the window and like kvetch about kids like letting their dogs poop on my lawn and stuff like that. But yeah, this was a really exciting and joyous moment for me to become a homeowner.
And do you see yourself living there for a long while, or sometimes you feel like come back to New York City sometimes?
Oh, I am always itching to come back to New York, to be honest. But that's just because I have so many friends and family, and it's just a lively place. There's always something going on. But I also really value the pace of Pittsburgh. It's a smaller town, it's a smaller city. There's less stimulation, and so I'm able to just focus on a lot of things, a lot of projects, and it's just a quieter and calmer environment, which I do love. But I get bored sometimes, and then I have to like go somewhere to regain perspective and reground myself. And New York is usually that place because it gives me everything I need and so much more.
Ready for another question?
Always.
Let's do it. Next one. Before the next question, talk about New York City. Of course, New York City is the center of the world. Yeah, like people, they dream to live in New York City. People, they dream to visit New York City. My question
Sure.
for you is, tell me a place in the city that, tourists, they don't know, people, they don't tend to visit because it's not well advertised out there. There's like a special place for you that you think, oh, I wish people they could explore more this area. I wish people they could know about this place. There is anything that comes to mind?
Hmm. I don't know. I mean, there's no place that I think is like unexplored in that town. There's millions, 12 million people in there, and they're just like crammed on top of each other. So the idea of there being any sort of unexplored space in that town in my mind, doesn't exist. But I do cherish the green spaces that do exist. Before I left New York, I was living further uptown in Washington Heights, and it's really close to Fort Tryon Park. And I have like a love for that particular park, because it's on the West Side Highway part of it, and you can like run along the river. But then it also still has its self a contained large park. And then there's the Cloisters Museum also attached to that. So it's a gorgeous park. It has really good views of the river, and in the concrete jungle, I highly advise people to find some green space and cherish it.
Amazing. Next question for you is, who is your biggest idol and what have you learned with this person?
I don't know. I would say my one of my biggest career idols is probably Barry Rustin. From being a major part of the history of the Black movement in the United States, but also being a queer icon too, and having to navigate identity while sticking to the movement of passion for your people, in which not everyone accepted you for who you are. There's something that resonates with me as a queer Black man and also in an interracial relationship. Later on in life, I met Barry Rustin's partner at a fundraiser. And, to see the energy and his contribution still live on beyond his existence is something that I think is just like really powerful.
How do you see in your opinion, being gay in Pittsburgh? Do you think you can be your true self? It can be a bit tricky sometimes, or you feel like the same as New York City?
I mean, Pittsburgh is the Paris of Appalachia. It is still Western Pennsylvania. We are in the tri-state area of like Ohio, Cleveland, and West Virginia. So, I mean, it's as a Black queer person, Pittsburgh does not have everything that I need all the
Okay.
time. I think culturally, like my soul yearns for certain experiences and certain spaces that don't happen here very often, and I think when they do happen, they are few and far between. And I make it my business to put it on the calendar with like the largest bright star ever, because Pittsburgh is kind of a white town, and the gay scene reflects that also. You go out to our nightlife or our parties, the music is often very instance, which is fine. I love me some techno and two-step. But if anything, it's forced me or made me realize that I have to be intentional with where I go out and when I go out, and support the people who are actively creating spaces, and producing spaces that I want. So in Pittsburgh, there's DJs like Honey and Rojo who play bopping tunes. Like I want to move my hips. If I go out and I can't move my hips to the music, like I'm probably gonna go home like underwhelmed. So I think that is something that is true to being in a small town with not a lot of people of color who like to pop good music.
Great. 3 questions left. Let me see you move your hips now. Let me see. Let's do it. You certainly can dance for sure. Next question for you is, this is my favorite question of the Magic Box. It came up to you. Send away a message to someone, but you don't need to tell who this message is for.
Anyone?
Anyone.
Um,
Just the person watching gonna go like, I know this message is for me.
Forgive yourself. Give yourself grace. We're all human and you deserve it.
Beautiful. Love it. 2 questions left. Let's do it. Next question for you is, what do you like the most in your best friends?
I want my best friends to be somewhat silly. I really love laughing till it hurts. So if there isn't elements of humor in our exchange, then I don't know what's going on. And that's something I value. Obviously all those like other things like trustworthiness and loyalty and all that nonsense. But honestly, like there has to be elements of not taking life too seriously, because every other thing that I do in life is extremely serious. And so I need people who can help me like escape that serious and laugh at myself and laugh at things.
Most of your best friends, they are back in New York City.
My best friends are all over the place at the moment. Yeah. Some of them are in New York, but I do have like 1 or 2 individuals in the Berg that I consider best friends also. Yeah.
2 questions left. Let's do it. Before the next question, as I could see your eyes shining talking about your partner, tell me so far, what's the most beautiful lesson you've learned from him?
I don't know, like the importance and the value of family. That's something I feel like I grew up very particular in like a Pentecostal, like Christian household that like didn't celebrate a lot of things to begin with, like birthdays, Christmas. So like I grew up just not celebrating things and celebrating people like out of the norm. And my partner comes from a very traditional Italian family in which they like have big dinners on Sunday and like everyone's got a birthday and like you got to prepare. So it was just a very different like family dynamic. And over time I really learned to appreciate like all of those like small familial get-togethers, even the ones that I like don't care too much about, but like they're important. And as we get older, just knowing that family exists and you can always chat with them or have meals with them on occasions is kind of nice. I don't know. I've sort of that's sort of one of the lessons that I've learned from him is that like there is a really a lifelong importance to holding true to the people that like you're of kin.
Amazing. Okay, next question is, if you could have a cup of tea with a fictional character, who that would be and why?
If I could have a cup of tea with a fictional character, it probably would be like Carmen Sandiego. She's kind of like one of my idols, even though she's a fictional character. One, like wearing all those like leather garbs, like running from airport to airport with people chasing after her. I'd love to chat with her about what she's running from specifically, because it's obviously not those people because they haven't caught her. And then I would want to know, like, can I come with you? Where are you going? I'd love to see. I'd love to be a part. Let me get my trench coat too.
Last question, ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Let's do it. Let's fun. Okay, let me follow you.
Yes, worm it out, worm it out.
Before the last question, Michael, tell me, in your opinion, what's still the big stigma that go around HIV?
I don't know. I mean, I would say there is a stigma of judgment that still exists around people who are exposed or contract HIV. There's a part of me that hopes that as a globe, as a society, we have taken some lessons away from the COVID pandemic and the way that pandemics, viruses specifically, don't hold any biases about who they affect. And I'm hoping that a lot of these lessons that have been learned from engaging this global pandemic, in particular virus of COVID, will be implemented and moved into sort of the culture around HIV. Because similarly, it's a virus; it doesn't really discriminate, and so a lot of the judgment that exists around people contracting HIV, like I hope the lessons transfer from one viral epidemic to the other.
Amazing. Last question for you is, tell us about your first kiss and your first love.
Kiss. Oh my gosh. Okay. So my first kiss was probably like, I don't know how old I was. Maybe like 14. It was in church. There was this girl named Raquel. She was like 4 years older than me, to be honest. But, I don't know what happened. And she rolled up on me and like on like a pew and then was like, we're doing this. And I was like, okay. And then she kind of just like started kissing me. And I was like, oh,
Sweet, sweet.
this is all right. All right. This is how this is going down. So that was when, I think that was my first kiss. I mean, you didn't say it had to be great, but that was, the first time someone consensually was like, we're doing this lip thing. And I was like, all right, let's try this lip thing out. I don't remember how old I was exactly, but I do remember that it was like Raquel was her name. And she was definitely larger than me in size and older than
Oh
me.
my God, I can't believe you said that.
That's okay. We were like teenagers, Well, yeah, we were definitely teenagers, but she was just older than me. That's all.
And your first love.
My first love. I fall in love very easily. Like I think it's such a fun thing to do. Because it just, I don't know, it makes me excited to love people. I think my first love was probably like my junior high sweetheart. Just my friend named Danielle, and she was really smart and she's gorgeous. She just got married actually. Had a really good wedding to a Scotsman not too long ago. Anywho, yeah, she was my first love. She made me laugh. She was incredibly smart, and also she was a kind person, and like she's had so many attributes that I found extremely admirable. And so it's like you put all these things together and it's how can I not love you? Yeah, so that was like my first love when I was like infatuated and obsessed. And we walked home from school together a lot. And yeah, we're still friends now.
Beautiful. Okay, it's not the end yet. Let's play now the word association game, okay? I'm going to give away some words. Just tell one word that comes to your mind. Quick thinking. Let's start with money.
Green.
Fear.
Adrenaline.
Life.
Tiring.
Family. Tiring. I'm joking.
um, Curried goat.
Oh, I like the way you said. Good. Love.
Warm and fuzzy feelings. I know that's multiple words, but you know.
You said very fast, so it's okay. Religion.
Oppressive.
Sex.
Necessary.
Politics.
Power.
Friendship.
Survival.
Desire.
Motivator.
Regrets.
Few.
Success.
Happiness.
One word for happiness.
Contentment.
Wish.
Desires.
One word for Pittsburgh.
Pierogi.
I've never heard this word before. Say again.
Pierogi.
Groggy, what that means?
Pierogi. It's a food.
Groggy.
A pierogi is like it's like a Polish ravioli almost is how
Yes, I know.
like
I
a
know.
lot of cultures have some sort of like situation.
Yeah.
But for some reason, pierogies are very popular in our area and like restaurants and people make them a lot. So I kind of associate pierogies with Western Pennsylvania.
I see. I thought you said groggy. Now I understood. Now I got it.
Pierogies.
One word for New York City.
Overpopulated.
One word for USA.
So many things that come to mind. I don't know. It's a work in progress.
Okay. HIV, one word.
Virus.
And the last one now. Mr. Pittsburgh Leather Fetish 2024. One word.
Sex pot.
Ooh. Let's pretend now I'm going to meet your partner for a coffee, and I'm going to ask him, define Michael in one positive word and one negative word only, what he would say.
One positive word and one negative word. I have to think about this one.
I love it.
I'd probably say he'd think I'm caring. He'd say that because you know, I will always go out of my way for anyone and everyone. And negative, he would probably say like does the most. I don't know. Like I'm always kind of looking for what comes next. I'm never content.
What's your star sign, astrology?
I'm an Aquarius.
Interesting. Okay. Let's play now Michael and the magic box, and you can ask me a question. But before that, let's play the music one more time. Let's do it.
Okay.
Following you. Okay, Michael, you can ask me a question now.
One of the things that I like focus on right now is around like rituals of respite. Because I feel that that is a conversation that also often gets left out of like what's important in life, like what do you need to succeed? And I think, you know, as people of color having the history of slavery and subjugation in our country and the capitalism, rest isn't often afforded for us or given to us. And so, you know, we have to carve those things out in our lives, in our schedules. And so I asked you, what are your rituals of respite that you use or do to sort of center yourself, ground yourself?
Let me see if I understood the question. Something that I do on my daily basis that kind of grounds me, makes me feel a better person. That's what it.
Specifically, if it is a ritual of respite, like something that calms you,
I
something
see.
that you do to deal with the stressors of life.
I got it. I got it. Great question, Michael. Great question. You know what? I one of the things that you know you talk when you're talking about a morning ritual. One of the things that somehow for me it calms me down sometimes. Most of the time, sometimes is waking up very early. It's a time of the I don't know. It's a time of the day that I feel kind of, you know, I have a lot of energy at the same time, but at the same time as well, it's a time where I reflect a lot about things that's happening around me. And I found that this ritual is very um, grounded. It makes me feel good about. And also, sometimes, if for one reason or another, I don't have those moments with me, myself, could be like a ritual of reflection, or maybe, people when they do a meditation could be as well. But
Yeah.
it's a time for me when I find a time. And sometimes if I'm too busy with something that I don't have this time with myself, I realize that I get myself burn out sometimes, not like badly, but I feel like I can find myself in the end of the day or in the evening, more stressed out, more than if I would have this time with me. So yeah, I think in the morning, after my shower, as soon as I kind of start for the day, I automatically, actually, I didn't set up that. I realized that automatically I have this moment of reflection with myself, before I start my day. It doesn't need to be like a long reflection, but something that I focus what's happening in my life right now, what's happening in the world right now, what's happening around me that somehow makes me feel anxious or makes me feel happy or makes me feel challenged. Could be anything about something happening that somehow got me thinking about it. And I realized that when I have these moments myself, my day turns to be more productive or more relaxed, and I kind of appreciate that. So yeah,
Lovely.
lovely. I love the way you said. Did you enjoy the interview, Michael?
Excuse me?
Did you enjoy the interview?
I loved it. It's practice to share with others, and the process of being asked random questions and that are thought provoking is, fun.
Thanks so much. Thanks for bringing your energy to the show. I was expecting for you to be so energetic, and I loved it. I think it's great. I loved when when I see people's profile on social media. Of course, I don't have an impression about them. I just think about who is going to be, and as soon as I turn on the camera here, I'm just so excited about the person that I'm going to talk to. And as soon as you start talking about your journey, I thought to myself, I could feel your energy coming through the video. So thanks so much for taking the time, for bringing your great energy to the show. And before you go, if you can share a positive message or anything that you live by.
Well, first, thanks for having me. I mean, I would say to anyone, always pursue what makes you happy, and
Mhm.
always remember to center your pleasures in your life. Just because we're getting older and we're having families and life is becoming more complicated doesn't mean that our personal pleasures aren't important.
Amazing. Thanks again for the interview. In regards to your partner and your friends, and you keep in touch. Okay, it was
Thanks
a
for
pleasure.
having me.
Take care. Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Bye. So, did you like the show? Don't forget to give a like, to share it, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to be part of the show as well, first, subscribe to our channel, and after that, just go to our website, www.williamandthemagicbox.com, and send us a request saying why you'd like to be part of the show. And I see you there. Bye bye, see you next time.